Hello, everybody. Hello, Mark. Hello, Scott. Hello, Anna. Hello, Claudia. Melody. Ciao, Giovanni. Hello, Elisa. Tallahassee, race car country. Hello, June. Hello, Annika. Oh, it's good to see everybody from all over the world. Okay, so today we're going to continue on, and we're going to go into the Luminescent series. And the Luminescent series is, boy, talk about a bad hair day, is 48 colors in the Luminescent series. And there's, within those are the pearlescent, and there's two in the pearlescent, pearlescent and pearlescent shimmer. There's going to be the duochromes, there's the iridescents, and there's the interference. So there's four of them, and we're going to be going over all four. Today we're going to go over, I picked out the 20 iridescent, so we're going to go over the iridescent today. That'll take us to about 20 colors, and then we'll finish up the rest next week. So we're making really, really good ground. Hello, Kristen. Hello, Jean. Hello, Stella. So let me point this down. Good to see all of you. Let me point this down. Okay. And so this is what we're going to be going over. We're going to be going over the Daniel Smith Luminescent Watercolors. And the Luminescent Watercolors have different properties. So I will tell you about those. And they're made, most of them are made with, the majority of all of them are made with mica, M-I-C-A, mica or mica. Hello, Juliet. And it depends on how the pigment manufacturer layers that mica within the matrix that gives it, it's either reflective or refractive capabilities. And also for the duochromes, it's both reflective and refractive. So the luminescents are good for highlighting areas such as water, sunset, sunrise, snow scenes. The duochromes have aspects of both the iridescent and the interference. It's called flopping. It's a flopping, F-L-O-P-P-I-N-G, flopping color or flop color. Pearlescents are similar to iridescents. White is satin because of the small particle size. And then, as we talked before, the shimmer is because it's a larger particle size. So both the same pigment, differing in how they refract the light, depending on the size of the particle. Okay. So there's 19 duochrome. There's 7 iridescent. There's 2 pearlescent, and there's 20 iridescent, making up a total of 48 colors within this family. And today we'll just be going over, we're going to start with the iridescent colors right in here. We're going to start here in the iridescent colors. So we'll start that and finish that today. So what I did, this is actually, let me see my hands here. This is Mars Black Ground. Mars Black Ground. And this is just the regular sizing of the watercolors. This is one sheet of Lana Aquarelle, and my chemist put Mars Black on one side and just left the other side with nothing on it except the sizing that normally comes with it. So what I'll be doing is I'm going to start up in here, and I'm going to draw down into the black, and I think I'm going to have to make this higher for you to see it. Let me see if I can do that. Yeah. Maybe even a little higher. That's about as high as I can go. Okay, so I'm going to start here in the white, and I'm going to go down into the black. And then each time I've done a sheet, what I'll do is I'll flip it to kind of show you. All right? So here's all of our iridescents. And we're going to start and finish these today. Let me show you one other thing. So for those of you that always ask, and I so much appreciate it, in general, this is what's happening. Everything, so you're painters of light. You paint with light. It's kind of beautiful. So if we have the iridescent, we have the interference, and we have the duochrome. So with the iridescent, the light comes in, hits the particle. In almost all cases, it's mica, M-I-C-A, mica. I'll flip this around for you. Mica, it hits that particle, so it's coming in this way. It hits that particle, and it bounces back. And that is reflection. So we're going to notice when we look at the iridescence, we're going to be able to see the color all over the white and over the dark. It doesn't have to be black. Black is just because I'm showing you and it's really easy to see it. It's in your face, so it's super obvious, which is really good for me. But it works over dark greens, dark blues, etc., etc. Anything dark is going to make it really be pronounced. So interference. Interference, light is going to come down. It's going to hit that particle. And it's going to bounce. It's going to go this way. It's going to scatter. It's going to go this way. It's going to go this way. It's going to go this way. So it's coming down here. Light's coming in this way. It hits the particle, and it goes all different ways. That is refraction. So it's being refracted, refraction or scattering. Now we're going to see, for the most part, interference. We're going to see it very well over the dark, but we're not going to see it that well over the light. That's just the way it behaves. The last one is the duochrome, and the duochrome is really a combination of both the interference, excuse me, and the iridescent. There's multiple particles at different levels, and when the light comes down, it can hit this one, for example, and where it's within the matrix, it might reflect. The light wave can come down, hit this one, and it may refract. So the duochrome, you're going to see two things happen. You're going to see reflection, and you're going to see refraction. In the interference, you're going to see refraction. And in the iridescent, we're going to see reflection. Okay? All right, now that we have that out of the way, let's see colors. Good to see you, Angela. Hello, Chantel. Hello, Mark Lee. Hello, Stephanie. Now, I always tell everybody, these colors they're like lovers. They want to share. So if you clean your brush off, I'm going to show you. If you wet the color down, This is going to be iridescent copper. So these are mica, and if you leave them on your palette, they're kind of like little shingles. So you have to kind of wake them up, which is you have to put some water on them to let that mica release. I'm trying to do it with this big brush, and this might not work. I thought it would. You'd really have to water it down. I'm gonna have my, see if I can change that light. So you can see it over the white. And then as this dries, I'll show you this when it's dry. This is really going to be vibrant. All right, so, and the interesting thing is, and because I'm using all iridescent colors, it's not going to matter so much, but you can just see the amount of mica that's floating there. And so if you use this water and use Cascade Green or Hansa Yellow, you're going to get that mica in your paint. So you really kind of want to use two different water sources, one for your regular colors and then one for your iridescent, unless you don't mind getting sparkles on things. People say glitter. It's not glitter, it's not plastic, it's actually a metal. In almost all cases it's mica, in some cases, a few cases, it's silica. Okay, this is going to be iridescent sapphire. Yeah, I'm wondering whether I should use a brush that's not so thirsty. Let me try this other brush here to see if this works too. Okay. And so this is iridescent sapphire. Iridescent sapphire. Hello, George. George, I'm going to show you your set next week. This is going to be iridescent sunstone. They look absolutely beautiful on this white plate. See, as these start to dry, you're seeing it more and more. Yeah, they work really good on black. I mean, you can actually, let me reach down here for a second. We did this last week. You can actually buy black paper. So if I did or use Mars Black Ground, like I did here. But if you did the black paper, again, you have to wait for it to dry, just like we had to have these dry, and they're just really pronounced once they start drying. That's really going to show up. You'll see all the particles. It's just like this. If this is dry, you really start seeing those particles. So mica is what you would find in fool's gold, for example. So copper is a non-magnetic particle. Aluminum is a non-magnetic particle. Stainless steel is a semi-magnetic property. But if you've ever seen mica, you know it has that really, it's very refractive, very reflective. Okay, this one's going to be iridescent jade. Iridescent jade. So the Primitives have mica, yeah. Some do. This is probably one of the most popular of all the iridescent colors. This is electric blue. It's probably one of the most, it's probably the most popular color. So I posted an article by Sandy Alneck, and she goes over each one of the luminescents, the pearlescent, the duochrome. She goes over them, and then she also, because you can see this blue really well on white, or you can see it really well over dark. It's just a really pretty color. Yes, what I'm showing you now are all the iridescent colors. Iridescent. So Sandy has a great, it's a YouTube video that's been posted, so you can watch that. Also as a Daniel Smith brand ambassador, Claudia, who's on right now, Claudia Diaz-Hernandez. You can go to Claudia's site, and Claudia uses a great deal of the luminescent colors, and I really enjoy looking at her work, especially when she uses them in eyes. Just beautiful. I think you might enjoy going to her video and seeing it. Extremely, very, very, very nice work. Okay, and this is going to be iridescent sapphire red. Iridescent sapphire red. So these are made for the car industry. If you see cars going around and they have, like Lexus has it, Cadillac has it, just about every car, Toyota, name a brand, and there's one of their cars that has a paint job that has those beautiful sparkles. That's these right here. Oh, it's my pleasure, Claudia. I really enjoy your work. Okay, so we see as, let me flip this around before we go on, and you can see as it dries, it's really starting to pop. So the more they dry, the more they're going to pop. In front of me, they're really popping, and it seems like on the screen they're popping, so that means they're really popping. So there they are in white. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And there they are in the black. And here they're really starting to pop. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 is still wet. As it dries, it's going to be like these other ones that really pop. Okay? All right, and we'll just leave that on the floor. We'll have it continue to dry. I'll use the next sheet of paper. I probably should have brought a little bit of spray water to spray down this paper, but I didn't. This is Lana Aquarelle. It's the favored paper of my chemist, Ron, just because the sizing is always extremely consistent. And the way you can tell that, if you wanted to, you can always wet your paper and then hold it up to a light. If you can see through it on the other side, or there's a blotch, means the sizing didn't hold to that area. All right. This is iridescent antique copper. Looks like before I apply it. Yeah, I would really recommend that you watch the video by Sandy and that you go to Claudia's site and look at hers. They both do just incredible work with these. They can show you from a practical standpoint how they use them, which is really interesting. I always think the more you can see from others and then take it, from there and make it your own, the better. Yes, thank you, Akiza. It's 140 pound cold press. Okay, so this was iridescent antique copper. As it dries, it's really going to start to pop. And this one is going to be antique gold. Yeah, I would say they're all just really fun to look at. I've seen lots of different paintings for insects, seashells, butterflies, eyes. Even Joseph Z uses it to go into the eyes. I saw Claudia was doing this. It makes the eye look alive because with watercolor, when it dries, it kind of looks like without some type of vibrancy, it looks like a dead eye. And our eyes, when you look at anybody's eyes, we have that beautiful, our eyes catch light. You can't find somebody that doesn't have light in their eyes. And so it makes it look alive, which I think is always really interesting. Okay, this one is iridescent garnet. So I'm cleaning my water out of 3 things each time I clean my brush out. You can see even with my brush being clean, there's mica. So not a lot of it, but if you want to use other colors, you probably want to have fresh water that you don't dip your brush that has mica inside of it. When I would give demonstrations and travel, people would say, well, does this color have, I see when I use ultramarine blue, there's some, it sparkles. I said, well, did you use any type of luminescent? Oh, or even the Primatech that has mica will do the same thing. It's not a bad thing, just iridescent garnet. And then we'll have these dry and it'll look. Did any of you use the C Lab and do the titanium white and Chinese white to see where they landed? I was going to show you that. It clearly shows that the Chinese white, they're very close to each other. There's more on the bluish side, and the titanium is more on the yellowish side. So that's why Chinese white is a little bit cooler, and why titanium white is a little bit warmer. But you can actually plot those out and prove it to yourself now that you know how to do it. Okay, this is going to be iridescent gold. Iridescent gold. Or you can take my word for it. But I always like proving stuff to myself. Monica, are you saying yes, you did? You did graph them out? Yes, those were, so Sandy says Janice had us use these for insects in the classroom demo. Yeah, Janice is fantastic. All the store staff, I mean, they super care for people. This is going to be iridescent antique silver. I remember when I was 10 or 11, it was a big, people would put the iridescent colors in Coke bottles, and then you'd swirl it when you go home, and it would do kind of that effect right there. You could actually see it moving. Okay, I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, I think I'm using that sheet of paper. Since I'm only going to do 20 today, let me bring this one back up again, just show you real quickly. So as it's drying, you can see as it dries, it really starts to pop more and more. So now that we have it drying, it's really going to start popping. So there they are. Go this way here. And so here it is over the white, the first set we did, and there it is now over the black. I don't know. So once I start going back here, I end up missing my light. Okay, so there's that, and now this is the ones we just did. Here we go. We can see them over, what is that? We can see them over the white. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and now we're starting to see them over the dark. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and as I come back from the camera, I move away from my light source. So there we go. So here in front of me, they're extremely bright. And the camera's trying to compensate for that. Okay, there we go. So, another piece of paper. Yeah, so Monica says there's a liquor or more than one that has a shimmer, so it might be mica. I wouldn't, personally, I would not drink that. Okay, this one is going to be iridescent goldstone. Yeah. Wow. That's bright right off the box. There we go. Okay. Oh, what is that? Yeah, I didn't put anything near it. Maybe it's yeah, it's the light. There we go. I tried to bring the light down so it's not so bright, but yeah, it causes flickering. So I had asked before if you'd want to see the oils, and I think I'm going to do a session on the water-soluble oils, because the water-soluble oils are just they are exactly the same as their traditional oil, but they have a modified linseed, so you can actually use water to clean up, so no solvents, which is really good. So you might find that interesting. Yeah, it was the light. So this is going to be antique bronze. This one right here is goldstone. This is going to be antique bronze. Well, thank you. This is going to be iridescent bronze. It's a pretty color. So I think what's really interesting by this time now, if you've been with me either from when we started in March or even this year from January, you can look at any color chart, any Daniel Smith color chart, and look at the pigments and understand about what it's the pigment. You know, if it's PBK, it's pigment black, and PW6:1 is buff titanium. PW6:1 is titanium. You can look at that and just start knowing all the, over a cup of coffee, you can know the colors. And then you can look at whether they granulate, whether they stain or don't stain, all that from just looking at the color charts. So that's pretty powerful. Now you have that in your toolbox. If you so choose, you can use the C-Lab and you can actually graph colors. And many of you would ask me, well, what's the difference in this color and this color? Now you could see it, and you know which one's more green or which one's more red or which one's more yellow or which one's more blue. Therefore, which is the warmest, the warm, the cool, or the coolest. I like that because it puts a lot of power in your hands, and I think it's always good. To have people have that, because knowledge is power. Okay, this is going to be iridescent topaz. Iridescent topaz. Okay, and the fifth color is going to be iridescent russet. Oh, this color's cool. I think the neat thing about these particular colors is watching somebody that's used them before in painting and how did they use them. It just gives you just a lot of ideas that you can just then take it to whatever level you choose to. Okay, let that dry for a minute. I was watching Sandy's video today before it was posted, and it was she was saying that she uses the dot cards to create her swatches, and they look very good. And for the Luminescent, she just had a swatch with black and white, or black with natural, and used that to create her swatch. I believe she used ground, what she was saying. But it's posted. You can watch that and see if you like it. Okay, so this is still dry, but you can see it really starts to pop. And then over the white, you can still see it. You know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can still see it. That's the property of being reflective from the iridescence, and then it just really super pops over the black. I'm going to go back to not the first one, but the last one we just did. The last one is now drying more than it's now drying, so you can really, really see it. They're all popping. Okay, there's that one. And I'll put this one down, let it dry some more. Okay. So okay, well, we have 2 more colors left, and then we'll do the other, the remaining. So 28 next week. I was going to show you and do the pearlescent, but I have the brand new tube out inside my truck, and that's the pearlescent shimmer. And when I do this one, I really want to show them both of you together. You can kind of that way see the difference between the two. So I think I'm going to hold off on showing that one to you till next week. But let's finish the last 2. And the last 2 we have are going to be iridescent ruby and iridescent Aztec gold. So let's look at those. I think for the last several weeks you've been champs in sticking with me for the hour, but we have just so many colors to go through, and now we're on the home stretch. So between this week and next week we will be done, and then we can look at the sticks, and we can look at the pans. So this is going to be iridescent ruby. The chemistry of the iridescent or luminescent series is pretty high in chemistry, because they have to layer that mica and use enough and layer it to be able to get that either reflective or refractive, or in case of the duochromes, both. Okay, that's going to be the iridescent ruby. And as soon as it starts to dry a little bit, it'll start popping, and I'll show that to you. And this is iridescent Aztec gold. It's a pretty color. That's iridescent Aztec gold. Okay, so I'll let that let those sit for a second. And I'll just re-show both pearlescent next week, but I'll go ahead and I'll just do this one now because I've got a bunch of paper. So let me show you this one. This is going to be the pearlescent white. Its counterpart is the pearlescent shimmer. They are both the same pigment, just one is larger than the other. The pearlescent shimmer has a slightly larger particle size. Remember, we learned that with the ultramarine. French ultramarine is a larger particle size. The ultramarine is a smaller particle size. The smaller particle size, when the light wave hits it, it moves toward the green or the cool, and when it hits the larger of the French ultramarine, it moves toward the red or the warm. Here, with this, the pearlescent shimmer, you just get a different type of reflection from it, since it's an iridescent. Right? Let's see. And how does your canvas control that when each person dilutes the paint to varying degrees? So it's two different things, Anna. So we use pigment in the process of making paint. The pigment in itself has a chemistry. So the mica, and where the mica is in the pigment, is locked by that particular pigment manufacturer, just like the quinacridone. So there's a lot of chemistry in the pigment, and then we take those synthetic pigments, and then we use those to make paint. The Permatex we do ourselves. Those are all of ours. So that makes sense? I only asked that because I've been doing it for 35 years, so the questions you asked are questions I asked. Good questions. Yes, I could do that, Stella. You use the gold gesso for the iridescence, or use the gold gesso just to show people the... So the gold gesso is really good. The gold gesso isn't really good for watercolor because it's not permeable. So the gold ground, the iridescent gold ground, would work really well because... And I think that's probably what you're meaning, is the gold ground would work really well because it would penetrate. So what I'll do is I'll get one of those, I'll find it here, or I'll go into work and get one, and I'll bring the gold ground tomorrow. Actually, I'll do that next week because it's going to take me 24 hours for it to dry, so I won't have time for it to dry. So I'll show that next week. I like that's a really good thing. Are all quinacridone synthetic? Yes, they are, Monica. They're made specifically for the car industry. They're most anything made, think about it this way, almost anything made for the car industry has to be perfect, because otherwise you'd have recalls. So pyrrols, parylene, your quinacridones, quinathalones are all going to be synthetic. Yeah, I mean, it's as artists, the thing I love about artists is you can use anything in any way you want. Gesso, because it's really made for a different medium. So you can use it for acrylic or use it for oil, and they will adhere to it. watercolors won't adhere to it, or certainly not well. It would be like using, putting on wax paper. Wax paper is not permeable or very permeable, so the result wouldn't be the same as you would for a watercolor substrate. That doesn't mean, however, that, I mean, I love the exploration of art, so. You know, Sandy, if you're an oil painter, this is, I used to, when I gave presentations, I would have a huge amount of oil painters and acrylic artists show up. I'd start with, are there any people other than watercolorists? And there would always be, you know, 3, 4, 10, 15. And it's just, it's easy to see what the pigment actually looks like when you do it with watercolor. The oil colors, being very curious, would say to me, I just want to see, it looks different, and they were absolutely correct. The pigment looks different within an oil matrix because you have to go inside of that matrix before you can come back up, either for reflection or refraction, which is different than watercolor. You still have reflection and refraction, but your pigment is pretty much sitting on top. It's a little bit embedded inside of the paper, but I mean, it's as close as you can get. So I really like that. That's so thank you for joining us. You know, I'm sure there are some out there, Sally. Sally says, do you know of an online C-Lab color space that gives a more 3D presentation? I don't know. I will look, and if I find one, I will tell you. Absolutely. Okay, so let me show you that one more time. These are the last three. There's our pearlescent. So we can see it over black. This were out in the sunlight, it would just be blinding because between my camera and my light, they're trying to do their job, but it seems like one cancels the other one a little bit. So there they are. Iridescent, we're going to see them over the dark. I say black, but really over a dark. If this were jadeite, I would see them. If it was French ultramarine, anything dark, they're going to pop. But I can also see the iridescent over light. Okay, so let me show you one more time. I usually get asked this, and it's a good question, so let's finish up with that. There it is. So there it is over the dark. There it is over the dark. There it is over the light. Okay. Here's the next one. Over the dark. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And if I hit the light with it, they would really super pop it. There they are. Electric blue. You can always tell that one. So there they are. You roll that. I think it probably works a little bit better when I roll it. Okay. And then here's the last three we just did. You see they start getting really bright as they start to dry because then the water is dissipating, the particles are staying up there. So there we go. Okay, so we finished 21, but we'll say 20. We finished all the iridescent. So we did all of the iridescent. This line, and this line. Next week, we'll do the duochromes, and we'll also do the interference, and I'll do the two pearlescent. So next week we'll be done, and we will have gone through all of the Primatech, we will have gone through all of the luminescence, and we will have gone through all of the general color. So you will have seen them all, which is really, really cool. The first time I did the video, I started in last March. I did them by family, so if that's of interest to you, you might want to go look at that, because I did the quinacridones as a family. I did the siennas, the umbers as a family. I did the pyrroles as a family. So if you like it by family versus this time I did it by chroma, if you like it by family, you can go back and look at those videos and see it by family. Anyway, with that, I really appreciate you joining me. Thank you so much for taking your time out of your day to join me. I appreciate it. And we will be done next week. So thank you all so much, and I will see you next time. I'm going to point this down and flip it up so I can see you. Oh. Thank you, everybody, and I will see you next week. So I wish you and yours health and safety, and I will see you next week. Bye-bye, everybody.